Now for the women. Older women, I love this one. Reverent in behavior. That Greek word is heteropropes. In most Greek cities, the temple was outside the city, about a mile. I don't know if you know that. If you go on the trip and Steve takes you to Asia, to Turkey, you'll find the Temple of Diana is a mile outside of town. The Temple of Diana. Why? Because people couldn't come before their gods anytime they wanted. They put a wall around it, and the only way to get to the temple was a little road that had walls the whole way. It was called the Sacred Way. You go to Athens, there's a sacred way. You go to any city, there's a sacred way. Rome, all of them had a sacred way to the temple. And if you wanted to go see the god, you came up to the gate, and you went, I have an offering for Zeus. And from inside the gate, a woman would come, dressed in white, kind of Lord of the Rings, Galadriel, or whatever her name was, you know, that one in the white robe. And they come out and they go, okay, take a bath, put on a robe, I'll lead you. And they would go like this. And the people would walk behind them. A heteropropes was a woman who represented the gods. That's the first word in the description, that the older women likewise, that they be heteropropes, that they be a woman that says to people, hey, follow me, I'll take you to God. You do what I do, you follow me, you listen to me, I'm headed toward God. That's the highest goal. That's the first quality God says I want in every woman, that your life, if someone watches you and follows you, they can tell you're headed toward God. Paul used a word from the culture that riveted the minds. Did you know this list became the curriculum of the early church? This is what they taught in the first, second, third centuries. This is why the world transformed the Roman world was transformed by the church. People couldn't believe Christianity, that the older women were not slanderers. See, not slanderers. Did you know that's the name of Satan? Diabolos, someone that slanders. Satan is a slanderer. He accuses people before God. Not given to much wine. Most older women were so depressed in the Roman world, they drank all the time. Teachers of good things. They become a model, a teacher, and they invest in others, that they admonish the young women. Oh, by the way, there's our website. If you want this card, you can just go there, and it's under resources. All kinds of cards are there and other resources. But now look at the younger women. I love this. What's the first thing every younger woman was to be taught in the church? To love their husbands. Not to have the greatest career, not to have the greatest skin, the greatest figure. To learn how to be best friends. You know what that word is? Phil andros. It means your husband's best friend. What's in America now? Most women, their best friend is their mom. Their next best friend is their sister. Their next best friend are their kids. Where's their husband? I don't know. He's gaming with the guys, working on cars. Why? Why do men have affairs? Because they're sinners. But do you know why they have affairs? Because they get closer to the ladies at work than they are to their own wife. I have pastored for 40 years, and I've seen some of the most wonderful men, and I've talked to them. I said, what on earth happened? He said, well, we just grew apart. I go, what do you mean grew apart? He says, well, I was so busy at work, I was never home. And the ladies at work became my very best friends. And I lost that closeness. Now, whose fault is that? His. But what was his wife not taught? To be the very best friend of your husband. Did you know if you have a very best friend, you know when they're not your very best friend? You know it right away. You know when they're not close to you. And see, that's what a woman was to guard. That her husband be her very best friend, then love her children, then focus on God, then pursue modesty in an immodest world. Did you know the sports in the Roman world? Do you know how many clothes men wore when they played sports in the ancient world? No clothes. Have you ever seen pictures of Olympic athletes? The discus player is one of the most famous. What does he have on? Nothing. The only thing they wore in the ancient world was olive oil. In fact, yeah, they rubbed their bodies with olive oil, and they wore no clothes. Do you know what the word gymnasium means, where you worked out? Gymnos is the Greek word naked. That's the word for naked. You know that from science. Gymnosperms and angiosperms are the two kinds of seeds. The gymno have no covering. The angios have a covering. A gym, all athletics were naked. And so, in a very immodest world, Christian women were supposed to be modest and homemakers and good and obedient to their husbands.